be plenty of time in today's Q&A session for live Q&A, and also if you have a question, you can always pop it in the chat. So I'm going to share my deck here. Great. So as always, please note this session will be recorded for those unable to join us live, and we've turned the recording on now. So welcome everyone. This is the Ask an Indeed Career Strategist Q&A. My name is Corey White. I'm with the Employer Relations team here within Career Services at SNHU. Today I have a few colleagues on, and they'll be kind of helping out in the behind the scenes. So if you have questions, feel free to put it in the chat for later on, as well as you'll be able to raise your hand and use the raise hand feature to come off of mute and ask your question live to Matt. If everyone is with me, if there's a little react button at the very top, if you can go up there and either thumbs up or throw an emoji in there so I know I have everyone's attention. We are good to go. Love it. All right, so just a couple of housekeeping items for us. Your experience here at Southern New Hampshire University is important to us. Is our policy and practice to create an inclusive and accessible learning environment. If there are aspects of this presentation's design or delivery that present barriers to accessibility, you can notify the below resources. And as always, we definitely want you to continue the conversation and connect with us. So there's quite a few resources here to take note of. If you're looking for one-on-one individualized support from our career staff, we do offer that as a lifetime benefit for you and is free. So highly encourage you to take advantage of that. You can reach out to us either by email or by phone, emailing cocecareer@snhu.edu or by phone at 888-672-1458. Also, you can connect with us on our community, social community within SNHU Connect with your login credentials as a student. That gives you a great opportunity to connect with peers, expand your network, ask good questions, get helpful resources, and we're always putting up some in the know videos as well about upcoming events, etc. So I highly encourage you to check that out. You'll also notice a couple of different links on either side of this slide as well. One would be to our virtual student online career center called Career 360, which has a ton of curated content for you to meet your individual needs. So definitely check that out. I know probably being popped in the chat there from our chat moderators. And then as well as our Indeed Job Search Academy link there as well, which I'm sure Matt will talk and touch on in a little bit. But definitely want to check out that resource as there's a ton of content there for you to help you with your career management life cycle.
Hello.
How's it going? Heard someone.
How are you? I guess my camera.
That's okay. Yeah, nice to have you here. If you could keep yourself muted during this portion, and we'll definitely, if you have a question, we will get to that at that portion of the event. Thanks so much for being here. Quickly, the agenda, we're going to do a quick introduction of Matt from Indeed, go over some of the pre-submitted career management questions that you all submitted. We had a tremendous amount that came in, so Matt and I did a great job of kind of putting categories together and filtering that down so we could make sure that we could get to as much content as possible and answer those questions. And then we will have an opportunity for live student Q&A after that part. So without further ado, our guest of honor today is Matt Berndt. He is a career strategist and the head of the Indeed Job Search Academy, and he has more than 30 years of helping people get jobs, essentially. He's held a whole bunch of different positions within both higher education and related to career strategy. And I will welcome him to come off and introduce himself a little bit and talk a little bit about some of his background. Take it away, Matt.
Hey, gang, it is wonderful to be here. Corey, thank you so much for facilitating and hosting. And Mark and David, I really appreciate all that you're doing for everyone who's here to make this a meaningful hour or so that we have together. As Corey said, my name's Matt, and I've been helping people get jobs, quite honestly, my entire career for a little more than 30 years right now. And I'm thrilled to be a part of Indeed and to be able to, number one, deliver the Job Search Academy resources that we have in partnerships with schools like Southern New Hampshire, and then directly to job seekers as well. You can look me up and find me on LinkedIn, and you can see the summary of what I have done there that Corey has provided for you. So I'm not going to talk a lot about myself. What I do want to do before we get into the questions, though, is remind you, well, you probably know because you're here already, that you have the benefit of some tremendous resources that people who are not attending a university have. And at Southern New Hampshire, you have the benefit of a career services staff that is across the country to help you make good career decisions that can lead to better work for a lifetime. And that's what they want to do. That's what where their heart is and where their passion is. Take advantage of that. I spent more than 20 years in university career services, and I saw the number of students who did not take advantage of those services or waited until their senior year to do so. It's the wrong time to start thinking about it. In the same way you work with an academic advisor every semester to plan out what you're going to do in the next semester, my recommendation to you is that you work with the career coaches and the employer relations team that you have there to navigate the journey through your degree to discover where you're ultimately going to land, because it's a process. It's not a transaction. So take advantage of these services, and we are thrilled that the Job Search Academy, and I'll talk more about that later, is a supplement to the great resources that you have. Because no matter how great resources are, there's going to be gaps that exist, and we want to fill in those gaps with our resources. And one of the ways we do that is through programming like this. Through the Job Search Academy, we do open enrollment, open to anyone courses every month, including these Ask a Career Strategist sessions, where anybody can join into a LinkedIn Live and ask whatever questions that they want. And we get to as many as we possibly can over the course of an hour to 90 minutes. The cool thing here is we got a chance to ask you questions. Corey and team did, to ask questions of you beforehand to get an idea of where your heads are. And we summarized that. So what I'd like to do to get us started is just sort of respond quickly to these overarching questions. You submitted 92 different questions, and I went through, looked at all of them and sort of categorized them. I wanted you to see where you collectively are, because very often when we're in a job search or we're in a career transition, we feel alone. We feel isolated. We think no one else is going through the same kind of stuff that we are. And I like sharing this slide because it shows that many of us are in the same places and some of us are in widely different places. Career management is important to, well, it's a top of the list of priorities. So is resume prep and job search itself and evaluating career options. But so is combating ageism, understanding AI and how you leverage applications. So Corey's done a great job on the next slide. I'm not going to get there just yet, Corey, of summarizing these into more formal questions. So what I'm going to do really quickly here, if you don't mind, is just sort of give my quick round robin on each one of the topics that you see here on the screen, and then go into the more formal questions that Corey synthesized from all of those, and then just open it up to the questions that you have. And I am going to lean on Corey and David and Mark to help me vet and prioritize those questions, or look when hands go up that I don't happen to see, because sometimes I get on a roll and I don't always see the hands that are there. But I'm trying to pay attention to the chat, trying to pay attention to all of the reactions that are going on, and keep them coming. So let's dig into what we've got with what we see there at the very, very top. Career management, important in this case to 13% of people, at least as indicated in their questions. Career management is a lifelong process. It's not something you start and you stop when you get a job or when you don't get a job. It should be an ongoing process. I encourage everyone to take from the time they begin their their college degree, looking at when you're in school, looking each semester at what do I know about who I am and what I do want to do this semester that's going to inform the decisions that I make about the courses that I take and the experience that I seek out. And then when we get out into the work world, and many of you are probably out there right now as well, pursuing your degree on the side, every review cycle, and hopefully that's more than once a year, gives you an opportunity to look back at the skills that you're accruing, the accomplishments that you have, and where you want to go in your career. So make a habit of career management. And of course, we've got great resources to help you do that through the Job Search Academy, but I know the Career Services team has those as well. Ageism is an issue. I would be lying to you if I tried to say that ageism doesn't exist, because it does. I don't know how rampant it is, but it exists. And all we can do really when you're my age and folks who are in those later stages of their careers, for full disclosure, I'm 59. I'm going to be 60 sooner rather than I was starting 59. We're actually doing a workshop on this in November on strategies for the later stages of your careers. But in a nutshell, I think how we respond to where we are in our career is more important than how the world is responding. If we're looking at work and saying, at this point in our life, what are we looking for out of work? At this point in life, what do we want to present to potential employers? We never want to be in a position where we're apologizing, saying something along the lines of, there's probably candidates who are younger than I am, or I know I probably have more experience than you're looking for. You don't know that. So don't go there. All you're doing then is drawing attention to the notion that age might be a factor, and that means age is a factor for you. At Indeed right now, I think the median age is somewhere around 27 or 28. Maybe it's pushing 30 at this point in time. My attitude is it takes two of them to make one of me. I hope they can keep up. There is a lot of important stuff to take into that I'm not touching on. We will when we get into that workshop. But the first place to combat ageism is right in our own heads as we think about what we're looking for out of work and what we want to bring to the workplace. Career exploration is there. I think it's a lifelong journey. We are no longer in a world where we can depend upon the companies to help define our career progression. We've seen that with the volume over the course of the past 3 or 4 decades of layoffs and ramping up and ramping down. That old sort of social contract that companies used to have with employees that really died in the 70s. We're finally admitting that. So it's up to us to be continually exploring what our options are so that we can be driving the bus of our career as opposed to just being a passenger on it. Leveraging AI, I'm not afraid of AI, got to be honest with you, because I think it can be a really beneficial tool for doing our jobs more effectively. I don't know how many jobs AI is going to replace. There's other people who will speculate on that. But I do believe that most of us have the opportunity to leverage AI in our job search, but also in our jobs. The ability to synthesize a lot of information quickly and then use that information once you've vetted it to make better decisions or more thorough presentations can be really, really beneficial. So I think it's important to develop some of those skills. We got a workshop on that as well. Job search strategies and application strategies, interview prep, I think all of these things go hand in hand. They're foundational to the Job Search Academy curriculum. We've got 5 workshops on the 5 core skills that I think everyone needs to master to be able to look for work and manage their career over the long haul. How to look for a job, job search, resume writing, how to prepare your resume and your online profiles, interviewing skills, how do you present yourself to employers in job interviews, job offer evaluation and negotiation. How do you define what kind of jobs you're looking for and whether or not what they're offering is fair and competitive compensation? And then finally, career management. What are we doing over the course of our lifetime to manage our way through the different career changes and career pivots, another priority listed here, that are invariably going to occur? According to the Bureau of Labor, the typical U.S. worker in what they call the prime years, that's an economic term, and that's, I think it's 18 to 54, is going to have 12.6 different jobs. We did some similar research, it echoed essentially what the Bureau of Labor said, somewhere between 12 and 15 different jobs and 2 to 3 wholly different career areas. So the notion of needing to be able to pivot and change careers is something we want to recognize as being normal. It's not easy, it's not fun, but it's a normal part of career management. So we can talk to that. Spotting scams is super important. We try to do a lot on Indeed to prevent scams from even getting on our site. We have a massive team. We call it our trust and safety team, which is monitoring employer content, monitoring job seeker content, and reviews to make sure that the information that is being presented is truthful, fair, and honest. The challenging thing is the minute we shut down somebody who is listing scam or spam jobs, they recreate themselves under a different email and try again. They're a persistent lot, but we're pretty persistent as well. And every single job on Indeed, at the very bottom, there's a little opportunity for you to report that job if you think it looks a little bit fishy. What makes a job look fishy? Well, how about this? You look at the job and you really can't tell what it is that you would be doing in that job, but it just sounds really, really cool. You're on Indeed or otherwise you try and do research on the company and you can't quite tell what the company does. They might be asking you for money. There's really no clear job descriptions. There are no reviews, or the reviews that are there are sketchy. When you go to the company and you look at their what do we do and about us and look at all of the jobs, and it's really unclear what the roles are, that's where I would be suspicious. There's a certain amount of buyer beware that you have to have when you are looking for work, whether it's on Indeed or anywhere else, because sadly, there's a lot of people out there who are trying to take advantage of other people, and their persistence is all get out. But as I said, so are we. Resume prep and profile prep. We just did some research, and it was disappointing to me to see that more than 50% of the workforce in the US that responded to our survey, more than 50% update their resume and their online profiles less than once a year. I think that should be an every 3 month or an every 6 month activity, because you never know when an opportunity is going to present itself to you. You never know when you're going to be at an event and meet someone who becomes impressed with you and says, hey, I'd love to see your resume. Or a job comes through you through a job alert that you really want to apply for. In both of those instances, you want to be able to apply or share your resume immediately. You do not want to go, oh gosh, where's my old resume? I did that workshop a while back and I got to have a draft of it here somewhere. I better get that updated. What have I been doing for the past 2 years? You've lost that opportunity. So my recommendation is you keep your resumes and your profiles always up to date. And for me, that means at least every 3 months. Internships can be a good way to get experience. They're a way to get your foot in the door, as is sometimes temporary work. And it's a great way to sample a career field before you commit to it. It's always good to reality test what you believe you want to do in your future. Internships can help you do that. So can information gathering interviews. Self-employment is a wonderful path if you are ready for that path and you are ready to commit to the discipline that you will need to be self-employed. Frankly, anyone who goes into real estate, anyone who goes into financial services to sell insurance, anyone who's an entrepreneur is in business for themselves. And that means you've got to be making sure you're making enough money to make your ends meet, that you're making enough money to pay your taxes. If you have people working for you, that you're providing them fair and competitive compensation for the work that needs to be done, and that you can manage your business. I've seen a number of people who are gifted in a specific area, could say art or entertainment or any other area, but don't have the business skills that are necessary and don't seek out the business skills. There are support organizations that can do payroll and a variety of other things. Self-employment is a very self-determined way of leading a career. My wife is a realtor, so we have that existence in our house. And depending upon your own family unit dynamics, you may have the balance of one person with a job and benefits where the self-employed does not, and those benefits are being provided that way. You may be needing to go to the healthcare exchange. There's a lot to take into account, but self-employment can be a really, really rewarding path. I love part-time work, and it's valid work, and it may be the kind of work that you need to fit into your life at any given life stage. So I'm happy to talk more about part-time work. Industry specific questions, there were a few of those in there. Those get us down into rabbit holes, I will say, that often help the individual who asked that question, and aren't always as beneficial to the broader audience. But if we get some as we move forward, we'll certainly get into those things. Networking, I think, is a core skill and activity that you have to nurture. It's not something smarmy that's about trying to get something from somebody. It's about relationship building. And I can dig deeper into that as well. Workforce reentry is challenging when you've been out of the workforce for a while, whether it's tending to a family that had healthcare needs or raising children, whatever it happens to be. There are challenges that relate to workforce reentry, and we can talk to those things. And of course, I could talk forever about using Indeed. But that's a quick, about 10 minutes or so, 15 minutes on the broader questions. Corey, can we look at the other questions that you presented? We want to talk about how do we enhance our professional brand and professional image. Common pitfalls that people make. How do you evaluate job offers? We've got, again, workshops on this wonderful stuff. Approaching job searching in a competitive job market. Some of that is a little reality testing, both to your location and the industry that you want to try and get into. Networking best practices, identifying and connecting with mentors, all good topics. And then aligning your academic strengths with potential career paths. Folks, that's a journey. That's not a transaction. And that's something that, as I said, you want to be doing every single semester as you go along, because you want to be validating or invalidating your assumptions going into that semester. Who do I think I am, and what might I do with this degree at the start of this semester? And what do I intend or hope to learn about myself, my opportunities, my skills, and my options through my coursework and extra activities and other activities this semester? So that as you get ready to start the next semester, you can say, so what did I learn about myself and my options? And how does that impact the courses that I take and the experience that I seek out and the relationships that I seek to build? Gosh, there is so much here. But I am really interested to know what is specifically on your minds on digging into those questions, because then I know we're all together. Heather, you have had your hand up for a while, and I appreciate your patience and your persistence. Can I ask you to come off mute and share your question? And then after that, Corey and Mark and David, I'll sort of let you triage questions and bring up the ones that you think are most representative, because that's really the goal here, is to try and answer questions that will benefit everyone who is on the call. We got 69 folks here. Let's dig on into it. But Heather, what's your question?
Well, first of all, I apologize. I didn't mean to raise my hand that early.
That's okay. That's okay.
But my question is, because I'm closer to your age than I am most of the college students probably on here. So I'm approaching 50 and I'm a female. And so I know sometimes it's not only ageism, but it's what sex you are. So if I can bring that into it. So my question is, like, starting a career, I mean, I've done a lot of administrative work. How does that ageism fit into looking for a position now with a degree? Does that make sense?
It does. It does. And those are two both very, very valid issues. I think it was the Bureau of Labor did some research about 2 years ago, and they said that still today women are making 82 cents on the dollar that men make. That's why pay equity is super important to us at Indeed. We're trying to get more and more employers to provide pay information, and that when you are looking at jobs that you want to consider, you want to look at what the going rate is for that job in that industry, in that city. We've got great salary data that can help you do that. There's good salary data on other places like salary.com and PayScale as well. So you can sort of triangulate what those options are. But you can try to mitigate a lot of the what am I going to be able to earn and what am I going to do issues that can be a part of a job search related to ageism or sexism with data, with information. You know, if you're saying, I have done my research, and according to that research in that market, the range for someone in this role is between X and Y. And because of the experience that I have and the education that I have, I believe I am worth this spot in that range. You see, the negotiation isn't so much about trying to get as much blood out of the stone as you can. It's about making a legitimate request based upon data and your knowledge of yourself. And so that says, and I'm not saying, Heather, this is you, if you're clearly at an entry level part within an industry and the range goes from A to Z, chances of you getting Z are not all that great, the highest end of the range, even though it's there, unless you have the argument, meaning you can make the case based upon your education experience and sometimes the competition, that that's something that you that is warranted. So it's about, you know, making a legitimate case or making a solid case based upon data and information. So that's part of it. The next piece, when it comes to where we are in our life and where we are in our career, what kind of work are we actually looking for? Because our expectations of our job search change depending upon the kind of work that we're looking for. And it's, I typically say, my assertion is there's 4 different kinds of jobs that are out there, and they're all very, very legitimate. The first one I look at is what I call a plan B career related job, sort of your dream job. I'm going to school to do this. I can see the long-term career stuff out of it. For the folks, these are really the folks who live to work, don't work to live. I mean, career is central, and the career that they're pursuing is really, really central. That's what I call a plan A job. It's sort of, it's put up there as being the ideal that everyone is supposed to strive toward, but I don't know that it necessarily is. It could be, but it could be a little further away. You might be one of those folks who really wants to be in business for themselves, or wants to get into the arts or the entertainment, or some kind of field where what your dream is isn't going to pay the bills for a while. You might be looking for a bridging job, a job that is going to pay the bills, a job that leverages your skills and your interests, but isn't your heart and your passion, and is giving you the time to continue to nurture that passion. It's a bridge to ultimately getting to your dream job or your career related job. That's what I call a plan B job. A plan C job is what I will call a comp and benefits job. I said there's some people who live to work. There's other people who work to live. I have folks in my family who is like, you know what? My job allows me to lead the life that I want to lead. I'm going to do a good job when I'm there, and I'm going to give what I need to that job. But it's not my heart. I'm not going to go to bat for it. I'm not looking to put in the extra hours. It's serving a purpose. It's a comp and benefits job. If that's what you're looking for, keep that in mind, because your expectations are different. And then some of us have a need to find a plan D job. This is, I got to keep the lights on. I got to get the rent paid. I just need some cash in my pocket right now. I have that immediate need. I've been in a position over the course of my life, and I would bet many of us have, where we have sought to pursue every single kind of job that I have just described. So, Heather, you are closer to my age. You're approaching 50. You're completing a degree. My first thought for you will be decide what kind of work it is that you're looking for so that you can set your expectations around that work. The next thing I'm going to say is do your research on where those jobs are versus where you are and where you want to be, and what the going rate is for those jobs. Then package yourself in your resume, in your online profiles, in a way to highlight the education, the skills, the qualifications that you offer that relate to the kind of jobs that you want to pursue, and then actively pursue them. whether that's pursuing jobs online by applying through Indeed or the systems through Southern New Hampshire, or if it's through your outreach and networking activities. Always focusing on what it is that you offer and what it is that you want and why this workplace is appealing to you. And then leave out all of that other stuff. Then you're paying attention to the way that company interviews and recruits and deals with candidates. I think we learn a lot about a corporate culture by the way they interact with candidates. And you can spot environments that may not be conducive, where there may be elements of ageism or sexism. Sometimes that's just an individual department and it's not representative of an entire company. Sometimes it is.
Thank
Heather,
you.
that was a rambling answer. I hope that was helpful.
Yes, it was. Thank you.
You bet. You bet. Corey, who do we come to next?
I think we'll do Kiana, because her hand must be tired as well. She was one of the other ones that has had that hand up for quite a bit. So Kiana, if you want to come off mute and ask your question to Matt, here's your chance.
Kiana, are we there? If you're talking, we can't hear you.
Not sure. If you think of the question again, you want to put in the chat or put your hand up again, we will definitely call on you. But Matt, yeah, what I'd like, great answers so far. I love the content. Really enjoyed your breakdown of kind of the different categories of job and why, and where that kind of fits in potentially for a person with their individual needs in their life. So that was awesome.
Can we talk about networking a little bit?
That's what I was going to say, actually, because that's kind of where I wanted to start with, because of last night's session and all of the questions that have kind of come in. I would love to get your perspective on best practices for networking. I think that's a huge kind of topic to kind of open up and burning one on a lot of people's minds. So for the audience, if you want to take that one. That'd be great.
Yeah, let's dig into it. You know, it's a really intimidating topic for a lot of people who are not the natural extrovert that you've seen I am. You know, my wife says, I'll go and talk to a tree. And I will, you know, as long as the tree sticks around for a little bit, and they don't tend to move. So they're captive audiences. But that's me, and that's not everybody. Okay. It can be really intimidating to walk into like a reception or a conference and not know somebody and think, oh my gosh, what do I do? Or the idea of doing something like an information gathering interview, reaching out to somebody on LinkedIn to try and connect with them can be really, really intimidating. And then one of the reasons for that is that people think it's about asking somebody for a job. I'm looking for a job. Why don't I go and ask them for a job? Well, my recommendation to you as you try to develop your skills and your comfort level with networking is to not ask for the job. Ask for information and insight and assistance from people. When you do that, the opportunities to find jobs come available. Let's say, for example, you think you want to do something, but you're just not sure. And you go on to LinkedIn and you find a fellow alum or an alum from Southern New Hampshire who is doing the kind of job that you're interested in doing. Wouldn't it be cool to talk to them? Not to say, hey, got any jobs, but to say, what's it like to do what you do? How did you get there? And give them a chance to get to know you a little bit better by asking questions of you, so that ultimately you can decide whether or not you even want to ask them for help, and they get a chance to decide whether or not they want to help you. See, there are some selfish reasons why people do and don't help you when it comes to networking. And a lot of it has to do with reputation. If you come to me and you ask me, hey, Matt, is Indeed hiring? Got any jobs? And I don't know who you are, my likely response will be, you know, all the jobs we have at Indeed, we use Indeed to post, so you'll find them there on Indeed. I wish you good luck, and our conversation is done. Because I don't know you well enough yet to know whether or not I want to help you. Because helping you can make me look good, or it can make me look bad. If I refer you to someone and you turn out to be a bumpkin, they're not going to remember you, but they're going to remember the fact that I referred you. And they're going to say, oh, gosh, I got to be careful anytime Matt sends someone my way. And if I refer you and you are a rock star, they're going to remember you, but they're also going to remember Matt always sends me good people. Matt's not going to waste my time with a referral that is not going to be of benefit to me. So there's a selfish reason why people do and don't help you. So you want to keep that in mind. So when you go in for an interview, you want to set yourself up to be helped. So reaching out and saying, hey, you work for, and I'll keep using me. Hey, Matt, I know you work for Indeed. I was wondering if you guys have any jobs, is not a great way to start a conversation. But if you're reaching out to me because you want to work in my field and you say, hey, Matt, I see that you work in product marketing as a project manager at Indeed. I would love to get 10 or 15 minutes of your time just to understand your journey, because I've seen your profile on LinkedIn and it's an interesting journey. I'd love to know how you got there because I'm interested in the kind of work that you do. Can I get 15 minutes of your time to pick your brain? That's a reasonable ask. That's something that anyone can do. And it also pushes an ego button. Ooh, they think I've got something meaningful to say. I'm wise. It sounds funny, but it's true. People like to share wisdom. So when you get a chance to visit with them to say, hey, how did you make that journey? How did you make that decision? What do you like about this? If you had to do anything different, what would you do? And then giving me the opportunities like, so you're pursuing a degree in marketing. Why is it that you want to work in marketing? What is it about a big tech company like Indeed that appeals to you? It's a get to know you conversation. Trust me, during a conversation like that, I or whoever you're talking to is making an assessment. They're making an assessment about how well prepared you were for this conversation, how well you know what you're talking about. When you say you're interested in working at Indeed, why that is the case, how well thought out your conversation is. And we're thinking throughout that time, who do I know that I might be able to connect this person with if I'm impressed with them, whether it's within my company or outside of my company. You are right, Denise. People love to tell their own stories. Spot on. Give them a chance to do that. And then by the end of a conversation like that, you can say, geez, Matt, that was really, really interesting. I was particularly interested in the campaign marketing stuff that you said Indeed does. Can you tell me more about that, or would you be willing to put me in touch with someone who's working in that aspect of marketing in Indeed? Because I'd love to learn more about that. Very specific ask that I could respond to. Or I might be listening to what you're saying and saying, right now, I don't know that Indeed has anything, but I've got some friends who work here or there, and I'd be happy to refer you to them, and you can use my name in that referral. You want to do that at the end of a conversation, because you might get into one of those conversations and realize, whew, this is somebody I am really not interested in getting a referral from. I do not want to wrap myself in this individual's reputation. And then you can just say, hey, thank you for your time. I really, really appreciate this. Would it be okay if I reached out later if I have additional questions? And leave it at that. So you don't want to ask for help until you know you want help from the person that you're asking. And you won't know you want their help until you had a chance to get to know them and they've had a chance to get to know you. That's why I look at networking more as relationship building, because these are people who are helping you because they have been helped. And it's one of those pay it forward kinds of things. I have got a wonderful, what I will call coaching tree of former students who I stay in touch with. And I'm thrilled to see what they're doing in their careers. And it also makes me very happy when I talk with someone and I say, you know what, I have somebody who you could talk to who might be of assistance to you, because I enjoy the process of connecting good people and letting them see what comes of that, because it's about relationship building. It should be an ongoing activity. This is something you're doing with classmates right now who might be working in similar or different industries, or who are in similar life stages to you. It can be in the workplace. It can be in your church, mosque, or synagogue, or wherever you find community. It could be on your softball team or in your pickleball league. It really doesn't matter. I want to share a great story. There's a true story about a guy I was working with many years ago. who had worked for Lockheed Martin for many years as an engineer and had that very traditional Lockheed just moves him from position to position to position over the course of about 25 years. And then Lockheed decided they were shutting down their offices in Austin, and he had 18 months of notice to find a new job because he was going to be laid off. And I worked with him throughout this process, and he was targeting a very specific company in Austin, very introverted guy, and this was uncomfortable. Actually good at that, by the way, but I kept pushing him towards saying you need to interact and you need to talk with some folks. Well, long story short on this, he was working very hard to get at this company. It was Motorola back in the day. And it never occurred to him that his neighbors might have something that they could help him with. And he was out in front doing lawn, and his next door neighbor, the wife, said, "Hey, Bob, how are things going?" And he says, "Well, I'm still looking for work." And she goes, "Really? What are you looking for?" And he tells her what he wants to do and who in the company that he wants to work for. And he goes, a really good friend of mine works over there as an administrative assistant. She might be able to help you out. It turns out her dear friend was the administrative assistant to the VP he was trying to reach with. And by simply having a conversation with his neighbor and exchanging information, he discovered that he was very close to this person all along. He made that connection. He ultimately got that job. Simple story to tell. It was a longer story as it played its way out. But I share it to say that there are relationships to be had in a lot of different areas. And if the conversation doesn't begin with, "Got any jobs, got any jobs, got any jobs?" you will find there are a lot of people who can offer you assistance because they do have information, advice, relationships, connections, and other ways of providing assistance. And you always do too. This relationship building and networking is a two-way street. We've got some great videos, on-demand recordings of our live workshops we did on professional networking skills and some of the theory and philosophy behind it. But that's a pretty good summary of where I come from in terms of best practices for networking.
That was awesome, Matt. Thank you. I appreciate those thoughts. Very in depth. I saw in the chat a lot of agreement and people kind of adding on. So
wonderful, wonderful.
Awesome there. Why don't we, before going back to maybe another topic out of this list, there was a few questions I believe that I saw in the chat. A student, Bruce, asked with regard to, he mentioned Indeed and LinkedIn are great for like full-time work, but he was kind of wondering a little bit about consulting work and what that might look like, and how to pursue that in the best way possible.
Consulting's really interesting. One of my favorite jokes is, do you know what the definition of a consultant is? Someone who borrows your watch to tell you what time it is. I've always found that one funny. Consulting is it's got so many different definitions. What is it actually? It's someone who has a kind of expertise that is in demand in some way, shape, or form somewhere, such that someone is willing to pay for that expertise for a period of time. Not hire it on, but to pay for it for a period of time. You are providing your consulting expertise to help them solve some kind of problems. Classically, you see the big consulting firms like the Accentures and the EYs of the world who will come in and assist large companies with change management, or large companies with accounting reviews or something of that sort. But almost anyone can consult. My wife has consulted in the past on staging homes because she's gotten her certification as a home stager, as a realtor, where she will come in and for an agreed upon fee, help someone stage their home because she's developed the credentials and the experience to do that. And it is something that is in demand for a certain amount of money. So there are consulting firms that folks can go to work for. You can be an independent consultant. Often you're going into business for yourself. Frankly, an independent career coach is a career coaching consultant, providing their expertise on a time and materials standpoint or an hourly wage. Some of this really gets down to the business aspect of it. Folks can have a great level of expertise, but if you want to go at it on your own, you have to understand what you believe that is worth on the market, and whether or not you can afford to do that, and whether or not you are going to commit to the sales and marketing to develop a strong enough client base. Because kind of like selling financial services, once you've got a client base, referrals build the rest of your business. But ultimately, the only way someone's going to know that you're available to be a consultant is if you're marketing your services to them. So that could be a website, that could be managing your online personal brand, it could be doing your research, or giving talks and pitches. And a lot of that stuff you're not getting paid for at the get-go. It's tough to establish yourself as an independent consultant, but it begins with the expertise that you're offering and knowing whether or not there is an independent market for that expertise and what people are willing to pay for it. Now, a couple of tips along that I will say for anyone who's considering that sort of a thing. When you think about what you should charge, say on an hourly basis, or if you're looking to build out sort of packages of services and figure out what they cost, it's important to know the value of your own time. And if you look at where you are in your career and the kind of jobs that you've had, you can use our salary tool to do this, or other salary tools as well. It's good to try and get an idea of how you value your time. Now, an easy way to sort of do this in the back of a napkin is to remember the number 2080. 2080 is the number of work hours in a year. And it's typically the number that is used to take an annualized salary and turn it into an hourly wage. So let's just say, for the sake of argument, that, and someone do the math for me on this, what is $60,000 a year divided by 2080? Does anyone have a calculator quick that you can do that math for me? Maybe just drop it into the chat. That number is what it costs for you, or what your wage is. But that's not a fully loaded. So 28, okay, so we got 28.85. So let's just round that up to $30. So you need to earn $30 an hour in order to make that $60,000 a year wage. But that doesn't yet take into account the cost of benefits. Because if you're in business for yourself, you've got to be providing your own benefits, and you've got to be paying your own taxes. You have overhead. I think a neat or an easy way to sort of calculate overhead is at about 30 to 50%. So, or you could say a 1.3 to a 1.5. So let's just go with a 1.5. And whoever had that calculator, well, I can do this in my head. $30 an hour times 1.5 is $45 an hour. So in order for you to earn $30 an hour and cover your taxes and your benefits, you would need to be earning $45 an hour, taking in or charging $45 an hour if you anticipate working 40 hours a week. But not all of the work that you actually do is in direct service. So now you're building out bidding for the costs of your services. So now you have to go back and say, if I'm going to deliver this product, let's say it's some graphic design, how much time is it going to take me to concept up and deliver drafts and final documents related to this? Let's say to deliver one specific logo, you know that it's going to cost you, it's going to take you essentially about 40 hours worth of work to do that. So what do you charge if you're doing that logo? 40 times $45. And I can't do that one in my head, but that then is your cost. When someone says to you, what is it going to cost me? $1,800. Thank you. Thank you very much, David. So what is it going to cost me to develop that logo for you? $1,800. Maybe round it up to $2,000 so you're giving yourself some room to negotiate. So whatever those services are, you need to be able to value them out and chunk them out based upon the cost of your time and your costs of doing business. That to me is super key, and why many people who want to go into business for themselves or consult find themselves not being successful because they had their area of expertise down, whether it was graphic design or whatever it might happen to be. They didn't have the business fundamentals to understand how much they should be charging in order to make ends meet. So that's kind of a roundabout way. I'm not sure if it directly answered your question, Bruce, but it's typically the way when I get that broader, what do I want to do if I want to consult or work for myself, the things that people need to keep in mind.
Yeah, very thorough, I thought.
I like it.
Nice job, Matt. We're on fire. So I have another question that came through from a student, and I think this would be a good one to ship your way as well. It's a hot topic for a lot of our students in many of the events that we host and put on around remote work. So Alexa actually asked, what resources or Indeed filters would you recommend for those that are looking for remote jobs?
Cool. That's easy. Use the remote work filter. We're doing some research, and it's looking at about a third of jobs, and it's not across all industries, are remote or hybrid in some way, shape, or form. And when you go onto Indeed, among the filters that will show up at the top of the page, one of them will be for remote work or hybrid work. You can also just simply use that as one of your keywords when you're searching for work on Indeed, and frankly on other sites as well. And then when you combine that with other keywords, job titles, or skills that you want to use, you'll start developing a feed of jobs that have remote in the title or in the body of the job description somewhere. In places where you want to work or where you want to be allowed to work because you're working remotely. Here's the thing. Not every job has remote options. My daughter is an oncology nurse who works in a hospital. She can't do that job remotely. There are teledoctors and telenursing roles that are out there, but that doesn't align with what it is that she wants to do. Not every single job in every industry is going to have an equal variety of remote or hybrid type options. Perhaps you saw Amazon, big tech company like that, has just said that come next year, they're wanting most of their folks to come back to work 5 days a week. Will be interesting to see how that plays itself out. So as you research the kind of jobs that you're interested in, you want to also research the extent to which you believe those jobs are offered remotely, by what types of companies and in what industries those jobs are available remotely. And it's going to be a little bit uneven, but we've got tools on Indeed that help you do that. And you can even set up job alerts for remote jobs so they come directly into your email box as well.
Excellent. Thanks, Matt.
Cool.
So we're coming up here at the top of the hour, but we probably have, yeah, I know it's gone by very fast, hasn't it, Matt? But I've thoroughly enjoyed picking your brain. I'm sure others can agree to that. So we probably have time for another question or two.
So if I just want to do a little Indeed type stuff here, because I knew there were a couple of questions about Indeed. And if you want to find those questions, I want everyone to just, know this if you don't know it already. Everyone on this call could log into their account on Indeed and do the exact same search in the exact same location and get different search results. Because search results on Indeed are not a product of what employer paid the most to get their job in front of the largest number of eyeballs. They are
Matt, you froze.
Indeed, if you're using Indeed, I certainly hope you are, make sure that your profile is up to date and current, and that you're keeping it up to date and current with the skills and the experience that you want potential employers to know about you, and leave out the stuff that you don't. You see, if it's in your profile, our algorithms are going to say, oh, gosh, look at that. Corey's got this skill. Maybe we should present this job to him. So if you're presenting qualifications you don't want to use in your profile, you're making it harder for you to find those jobs. So the information in your profile is really important. And it's not just the job and the historical stuff you've got about past and present jobs that you have, but the preferences that you set up and the skills that you share. Dig into your profile and make sure that's current. The second part that drives each individual search results are your search behavior, the things that you do click on and the things that you don't click on. When you ignore jobs that we show you, that's signal to us to show you those kinds of jobs less and less and less and less. And when you click on jobs, you're giving us indications of how close we are to delivering what you want. You click on something and come back quickly. We've learned, there was something there, but it wasn't really what she wanted. You click on there and dwell for a while, maybe save the job, maybe look at company information, but you still haven't applied. You're telling us more and more about the stuff that's important to you. And when you go to a job and you actually apply, now you've told us very specifically the kinds of jobs that you're looking for. Our algorithms are looking at all of that stuff so that we are ultimately, the more you interact with the platform, delivering stuff that is unique to you. Now that takes time and it takes your engagement on the platform. But know that when you're using Indeed, to make sure your profile is tight and that you're remaining active on the platform, because that helps us better understand what you're looking for. And of course, anything you see that looks fishy, hit that report button at the very, very bottom. And we've got a bunch of workshops on all of these topics and live sessions that we do. The next one's coming up. We're doing one on, we're doing our Indeed Bootcamp coming up very soon. We're doing an Ask a Career Strategist about seasonal employment. We're doing a workshop on interviewing questions and how to answer them in October. And then we're doing a workshop on strategies for older workers, strategies for workers in the later stages of their careers in November. And these are all free, and they're all just a supplement to the stuff and the wonderful stuff you're getting from Southern New Hampshire. So that's enough of my paid political announcement from Indeed. I authorized that message, by the way. Corey, what additional questions do we have before we wrap?
So it looks like Jerry, fellow colleague here in Career Services, had a question with regard to being able to disable the personalization of a job search on Indeed. I'm not sure if that's you're able to do that, because I know with all of the back end kind of AI and things of that nature.
Yeah, so Jerry, there really is not a way to depersonalize search on Indeed, but I've got a hack for you. If you really want to know what a blind search, meaning we don't know anything about you, I would go to your window, go to your browser and open up an incognito window. When you have an incognito window open, you call up Indeed.com, we don't know who's there. You're not logged in. We don't know anything about you. Now, you're going to be encouraged to log in because we want people to be logged in because that's the better experience. But you can still search there and see what someone who is coming to Indeed for the first time and does a search will get. Now, even that search is going to be informed by every other time someone has come to an incognito window and done that same search. So every search is informed by prior search behavior because that's essentially what we are. And we do it that way because we want to deliver to job seekers and workers stuff that aligns with who they are and what they want. We don't want to just deliver jobs based upon what employers want. That's the old classified ad model. The more I spend, the bigger the ad that I have. And it's the old job board model. The more I spend, the more I know my job will show up regardless of who's there. We don't want to do that. That's not the kind of job seeker experience that we are trying to offer. So we lean into the whole personalization thing.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. Cool. And with that, we're almost at time. So I just want to, say thank you to our audience for joining us today. Hopefully we were able to get to, as many of the topics and kind of hit on those main things as much as possible. There's so much here and so much. So again, we want to thank Matt from Indeed for joining us today and imparting his wisdom with us. Certainly, I put it in the chat again. Check out some of those upcoming workshops that Matt was talking about some of those other related topics and kind of honing in those different sections for future. And again, this kind of is going to be concluding our second part in session of Business Career Week this week. We do have a final session, culminating on Thursday this week. with Sherwin-Williams on business management opportunities. So I'm going to put that in the chat as well. It's on Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern. So definitely check that out. My colleague, Mark Schaffer, is going to be leading that session. So if you haven't registered and you are interested in learning a little bit more about management opportunities and training programs, definitely check that programming out later this week. But again, thanks to all. Thank you again, Matt. You've been stellar. And with that, we'll conclude the session. I hope everyone has a great rest of the day. Take care. We'll see you on the next one.
Friends. We hope to see you on